Thank you so much. And I'll just introduce myself. I'm Britton Miller. I'm the University Assistant for the CTL. And I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Carrie Sassu, who's the Director of the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning. And she'll take it from here.
Thank you, Britton. I want to thank also the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Hegedus. We have some folks unmuted. So maybe we can.
Let's see if I can mute everyone here.
So thank you to the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Hegedus, for being present here tonight, and as always, for his unwavering support of the center. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Office of Alumni Relations for continuing to support our connections to alumni in terms of advertising this event and those prior. And to thank Britton Miller, our Center's University Assistant, who has helped with much of the work to prepare for tonight and is obviously orchestrating the Zoom tonight. I always like to start these colloquia by reflecting on how honored I am to be able to serve in the position of the Director of the Center for Teaching and Learning. In this position, I have the opportunity to engage with and learn from individuals both within and outside of our university community, and I continue to be ever grateful for the opportunities to be both a teacher and a learner. And sometimes you're the learner from a former student, as in tonight. Tonight's colloquium is the first in a series addressing issues related to identity as it relates to teaching and learning. And when we were thinking about this, we reflected on the fact that our identities as teachers and learners are really defined by elements in our culture, norms, practices in the classroom. These aspects of ourselves are linked to our histories, our personal narratives, and experiences that introduce degrees of complexity to our teaching and our learning experiences. So our colloquium series will explore how our identities deeply intersect with teaching and learning in critical ways. And now I would like to introduce you to our speaker, Dr. Mykelle Coleman. And following my introduction, I will turn the floor over to her. It is with great pleasure that I get to share a little bit about Dr. Coleman with you tonight. Mykelle Coleman is a nationally and Connecticut state certified school psychologist with a PhD in educational psychology and a specialization in school psychology and an area of concentration in school law from the University of Connecticut. She received her Bachelor of Arts from Western Connecticut State University with a degree in psychology. She's an alumna from Southern Connecticut State University, where she received her master's degree and 6-year certificate in school psychology and was a member of the Dean's Student Leadership Group. Mykelle has worked and interned in various settings across Connecticut, serving children, adolescents, and their families, including at a community mental health center, state agencies, Head Start programs, public schools, transition programs for young adults. Dr. Coleman is currently a postdoctoral fellow at a family-centered and multidisciplinary practice in Connecticut. She is passionate about amplifying the voices of communities. Mykelle is actively involved in research projects, including school climate perceptions of minoritized student groups and the impact of school discipline on specific student populations. In addition, she has supported research projects that focused on microaggressions on university campuses and relationships within the field of social psychology. Her research interests are centered on advancing social justice in the field of psychology and promoting change throughout increased knowledge. So welcome, Dr. Coleman. Everyone is eager to listen and learn from you tonight. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me share my slides. I can have a thumbs up just to make sure that you can see. Perfect. As I said before, thank you so much for the introduction. It is an honor to be here today. So hello, everyone. I appreciate you all for attending today. I am Dr. Mykelle S. Coleman, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you all, especially for Southern Connecticut State University and the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning. There is an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. There were many villages throughout my life journey, and Southern was one of them. Southern has helped me grow personally and professionally, and I am forever grateful for this community. For this series, my presentation is titled Hidden Figures, the Untold Experiences of Black Girls in School. It's time to uncover, amplify, and empower the voices of individuals that should and will be heard. The most important conversations are the most difficult to engage in, but they are essential for growth. As I progress through this presentation, I would like for you to think about your own experiences, process your thoughts and emotions, and reflect on what we discuss. Before I get started, I wanted to provide an overview. I will discuss the educational experiences of Black girls, the purpose and results of a study I conducted, how we support Black girls in school, and the experiences of Black women in education. From the landmark decision in the case of Brown versus Board of Education, the U.S. Supreme Court declared the separate but equal doctrine as unconstitutional and ruled the path towards integration. Even though this decision fueled the conversation and built a legal structure to guide our schools, 69 years later, disproportionate treatment persists in our nation's public school systems. Specifically, research continues to demonstrate that Black students do not have access to a quality education or numerous opportunities when compared to their peers. We often discuss that an achievement gap exists, but there is also an opportunity gap. Opportunities for academic success are only provided to specific student populations, which impacts educational outcomes tremendously. There are many factors that can influence this: teacher quality, teacher training, curriculum, as well as school funding. For example, schools with a higher percentage of students of color spend approximately $733 less than schools with a higher percentage of white students. Starting in the late 1990s, school districts implemented new security policies and initiatives, including metal detectors, school-based law enforcement officers, and zero tolerance policies. They were intended to decrease school violence and improve protections, but instead, this contributed to the disproportionate treatment of Black students. As a result, school discipline has significantly impacted Black students. There are disproportionate and higher rates of suspension and expulsions. Even at preschool level, Black students are 3.6 times more likely to be suspended. Black students are 3.8 times more likely than white students to be suspended from kindergarten to their senior year in high school. Schools should be safe spaces for Black students, but instead, Black students are exposed to security procedures within their school classrooms and hallways that are commonly utilized in the criminal justice system. Since schools are using these procedures, this has fueled the criminalization of Black youth. So what is criminalization? Criminalization is the process by which a group of individuals is assigned a criminal identity and subjected to disciplinary practices. Due to racial biases and stereotypes from school personnel and society as a whole, Black students are regarded as criminals and as a threat. They are also more likely to be punished more than their counterparts, even when there is no indication that their behaviors are more troublesome. As these punitive and harsh tactics are employed more and more on Black students, it increases the chance of failure in school and future engagement with the criminal justice systems or other conditions beyond prison or jail. So this may include detention centers or being on house arrest. This troubling path is often regarded as the school to confinement pathway. The majority of school climate literature focuses primarily on the impact of discipline on Black boys while neglecting to examine the perspective and treatment of other Black students. Even though Black boys have the highest percentage of being suspended, Black girls follow with the subsequent highest risk. Being a Black girl should not be a crime. While some research has shown that Black girls are subjected to disproportionate treatment and criminalization at higher rates, a scarcity still exists when examining this impact on Black girls. Numerous stories of Black girls being disciplined in their school environments have made national headlines across the country. These stories include a school resource officer wrapping his arm around a Black girl's neck, dragging her out of her desk, and arresting her in front of her classroom in South Carolina. A school resource officer tackling a Black girl, slamming her to the ground, and handcuffing her while she's unconscious in Florida. Or in California, a 16-year-old Black girl who was body slammed by a school resource officer while other school employees pleaded that he stop. Black girls' experiences are underrepresented. Their stories are not being told, their voices are not being heard, and their viewpoints are not being considered. Black girls are 3 times more likely to receive an office disciplinary referral, also known as an ODR. At the preschool level, Black girls represent approximately 20% of enrollment, yet represent 54% who receive 1 or more suspensions. 52% of Black girls were suspended from school and significantly more likely to be expelled. It becomes evident that Black students' historical and current experiences with school discipline impede their access to the education that they are legally entitled to. As a result, their opinions on their school as a whole, their school climate, and sense of futility are impacted. School climate is a critical data point for measuring school quality and for improving the school interactions with marginalized student groups. School climate comprises of 4 essential components: teaching and learning, relationships, safety, and environment. School climate can impact a Black student's academic outcomes as well as their development overall. If Black students feel less supported at school, they may not feel a connection to their school and the elements within it. A range of factors can impact perceptions of school climate across each dimension, including their encounters with racial microaggressions and the punitive disciplinary practices that they are exposed to. Schools with lower academic norms and expectations for students can lead to higher levels of academic futility among students. Academic futility refers to students' perceptions of their own ability to excel in school based on the community they associate with and educators' perceptions of students like them. If they feel futile, they believe that they are powerless to influence or control their academic success. If students encounter several circumstances in school where they feel that they have no influence over, they are likely to develop a stronger sense of academic futility. Taken together, the disproportionate treatment of Black students in schools can influence their perceptions of school climate and their sense of academic futility. A Black girl's experiences stem from intersecting structures of inequity. The term intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw to describe the experiences of various identities and how they account for varied systems of oppression and discrimination, specifically with Black women. There is a misconception that intersectionality is only about recognizing identities, but it goes beyond that by looking at how different forms of discrimination can intersect with each other. Kimberly Crenshaw described three aspects. The first one is structural. This is where they face a variety of challenges depending on financial and social dynamics. Political means frequently conflicted between two political agendas, so anti-racist and feminist, as well as representational. This means the objectification of Black women and how they're viewed in the media. The severity of this treatment among Black girls has received limited attention to fully understand its implications on their academic achievement and their overall school experiences. Black girls face a wide range of barriers as they progress through their academic careers and into adulthood. Using an intersectional lens allows us to fully comprehend the interactions that Black girls encounter at school daily. In order to integrate these critical factors within the framework of intersectionality, I have created this model to display how the identities of gender and race intersect within the educational system that contribute to the school perceptions of Black girls. The criminalization of Black girls reveals significant assumptions and biases that contribute to Black girls' inequitable outcomes. Teachers typically discipline Black girls based on their demeanor rather than their actual behavior. Teachers frequently punish Black girls for being disrespectful of authority, loud, unladylike, because they do not conform to white middle class femininity norms, such as being silent, obedient, and masking their feelings and ideas to be considered pleasant by others. Instead, Black girls are assertive, resilient, and often share their feelings openly. Black girls are also held to adult expectation at a younger age when compared to their peers. This is known as adultification. Black girls are seen as less innocent and more adult-like. Teachers perceive that Black girls are dangerous and deserve harsh adult-like punishment. These harsh responses to behavior drive Black girls out of school, resulting in academic disengagement, greater push-out rates, and poorer outcomes in the future. School push-out refers to the variety of individual and societal factors that hinder or discourage students from completing their education. This term emphasizes that schools with unwelcoming learning environments impact student graduation rates. It is vital to explore how race and gender influence the educational outcomes of Black girls, as well as how these elements shape perceptions of Black girls. Instead of providing a voice to the voiceless, it is critical to pass the mic. For this study, I wanted to listen to the perspective of Black girls and not just speak for them. I wanted to empower their voices and bring their stories to the table when discussing change. The purpose of the study was to center Black girls' personal experiences and perceptions of their school's climate, sense of futility, and overall school using a sequential explanatory design. This means going from quantitative analysis to qualitative analysis. There is a gap around qualitative analysis to identify specific aspects to bolster evidence from Black girls about their experiences. With using a survey and individual semi-structured interviews, this triangulation of data was combined to gain an increased understanding of Black girls' perceptions. Here are my research questions separated by quantitative versus qualitative analysis. It was hypothesized that Black girls will have lower perceptions of order and discipline and safety, which will negatively impact their perceptions of their school's climate. The perceptions of Black girls who have faced disciplinary action, meaning having an ODR or suspension, across their lifetime, and those who had not were also compared. It was hypothesized that there is a significant relationship between school climate and academic futility. For the qualitative analysis, it was hypothesized that 3 or more themes will be identified as barriers and factors of agency for school success for Black girls. For the quantitative phase, 157 Black girls who attend middle and high school across 2 states within the Northeastern region completed the survey surrounding school climate and sense of academic futility. The responses were gathered primarily by distribution within community organizations. So this means churches, youth centers, and Black girl initiatives. For the qualitative phase, 10 Black girls were interviewed after completing the survey. Pertaining to procedures, agencies were recruited via email communication to administration or leadership in the Northeastern region of the United States. Qualtrics surveys were completed during non-instructional time. These surveys included 2 measures, the Georgia School Climate Survey and the Sense of Futility Scale. At the end of the survey, it asked students if they're interested in participating in an interview, and the 10 Black girls that participated were asked to complete consent forms. The Georgia School Climate Survey assesses middle and high school students' perceptions within 8 dimensions: school connectedness, character, physical environment, adult social support, peer social support, cultural acceptance, order and discipline, and safety. Higher school climate scores represent more positive perceptions. The Sense of Futility Scale assesses students' perceptions on mastery based on educational goals. Higher futility ratings represent more negative perceptions of their control to achieve academic success. So sample questions for the Georgia School Climate Survey include, my school has clear rules for behavior. Students are frequently recognized for good behavior. I know an adult at school that I can talk to if I need help. Sample questions for the Sense of Futility Scale include, people like me will not have much of a chance to do what we want to do in life. At school, students like me don't have any luck. There is no use in working hard. A good job is not reserved for people like me. Individual interviews with Black girls were conducted virtually in a single session. For the semi-structured interview, the interview is comprised of a list of questions and prompts based on the quantitative findings. Intersectionality was used as a conceptual framework to determine how Blackness intersects with gender across each component. Through recruiting Black girls, intersectionality guided how their race and gender intersected with the educational system to influence their perceptions of school, including its disciplinary approaches. I was also mindful of leading statements, so I didn't say things in the interview such as, don't you feel undervalued at school? Based on the quantitative results, qualitative interview questions included, what in particular do you like about school? What in particular do you dislike about school? Tell me about a time where you felt safe. Tell me about a time where you did not feel safe. From this sample, the overall school climate mean was 2.94. Safety, cultural acceptance, and adult social support had the lowest 3 school climate means. It is important to note that this scale is from 1, the lowest, to 4, the highest. These results indicate that they perceive the degree to which they felt safe, the degree to which their school celebrates diversity, and the quality of adult support as the lowest subscales. Character, peer social support, and unexpectedly, order and discipline had the highest 3 reported means. This results indicated that they perceived their character development, the quality of peer social support, and the degree of expectations and rules at school as the highest subscales. Black girls had a lower mean when compared to Black girls who have not received an ODR or been suspended. For these groups, the 3 highest and lowest subscales were similar to the entire sample. However, cultural acceptance was the lowest school climate subscale for both discipline groups, whereas safety was the lowest for the entire sample. So this means the degree to which the school celebrates diversity is perceived more negatively when they have been disciplined at school. When determining the relationship between Black girls' perceptions of overall school climate and sense of academic futility, sense of futility is a statistically significant predictor of overall school climate, which means for every unit increase in sense of futility, there is a 0.623 decrease in overall school climate. After analyzing the quantitative data, there were unanswered questions regarding Black girls' perceptions of school climate. Why is order and discipline one of the highest subscales? Why is safety the lowest for the entire sample? Why is cultural acceptance the lowest for Black girls who have been disciplined? And how do components of school climate and academic futility impact their perceptions? Each Black girl's responses to the semi-structured interview generated 7 themes that have been identified as barriers and sources of agency for school success: adult relationships, peer relationships, academics, school procedures, cultural identity, school connectedness, and character. 3 of the final themes are also comprised of sub-themes. Black girls' experiences are complex. However, these are the themes that were consistent. The quality of adult relationships was crucial in determining whether academic success was hindered or promoted for each interviewee. The power of relationships in schools is critical to healthy development and developing community. The respondents considered how significant components of their interactions with adults at school were to their overall school experiences. These essential features included adult characteristics, actions, expectations, support, and accessibility when requested. Each participant described the distinctive characteristics and personalities of their teachers who influenced their educational experiences. It was like an argumentative essay on if we should have uniforms or not. She was like, I don't think you can write an essay up to the standards that your teacher wants. I was like, look, I have one of the highest grades in this class, but okay. This Black girl was talking about her experience with a substitute teacher. Well, one teacher, he would ask us like how we feel and how our day was, depending on like our answers would be if we got homework. And he really made like everyone feel welcome and comfortable. Academics were viewed as essential components of school performance in the context of the educational environment for the respondents. The participants discussed their experiences in the classroom, overall school expectations, and strategies for thriving in school. Additionally, Black girls reported their concerns with struggling in certain subject courses, that they are not good enough if they are not in honors or advanced placement courses, and being dissatisfied with the curriculum taught, especially with the discussion of Black history. What I mean by that is like Martin Luther King, like did him 1,000 times, all last year and in middle school. We keep learning about him. I want to learn about someone else or other stuff that happened. Because we are honors, when you're in honors, they expect so much, like a lot more than like the regular class. So you got to do more than others because you're not in that class for a reason. Regarding discipline, each Black girl noted that their school's natural response is to punish students. The most used practices are primarily punitive: lunch detentions and school suspensions or out-of-school suspensions. Additional responses to discipline include court cases, disciplinary records, and being handcuffed in the hallway by security guards or school resource officers. In terms of safety, participants describe instances where they felt safe or unsafe at school based on their school's approaches. They ended up bringing me to the office, handcuffing me, bringing me to the office, and then they called my mom and told her everything. I would probably say I feel safe with protocols that can ensure that nothing will happen to me or my peers. The discussion surrounding their cultural identities and those of others in their environments may have an impact on how successful they are in school and in life as Black girls. Each participant talked about how cultural variables might help or hinder their progress at school, as well as how they would be treated in society, including the number of school personnel that has similar identities to them. I definitely think that my identity might hinder me just because of, again, stereotypes. Like people will just assume based on me without actually getting to know me and knowing like my goals and what I want to achieve. To be honest, I think I only had one, and she wasn't even my teacher. She was my coach. That was the only Black teacher, and they ended up firing her. The connections that each Black girl has to their school were explored. This encompasses their level of school connectedness based on the quality of school life and physical learning environment. All of the Black girls who participated in the semi-structured interviews discussed their relationships with peers in school as a significant factor. Peer relationships were perceived as vital to the overall school experience, including in the classroom. Being a Black girl in today's school and society can be affected by factors such as having teachers and peers who share identities, seeing opportunities extended to other students from different backgrounds, and facing numerous challenges as a result of the systemic racism that our systems have been founded upon. However, most of the Black girls highlighted their character as a factor of agency. They reflected on their viewpoints, their qualities, and personalities in comparison to others. These elements shape the likelihood of how they perceive achieving academic success in their overall experiences. Most of the interviewees identified as being one of the good ones. These stories and voices center the narrative around their experiences. I decided to take a moment just to see if there's any questions or comments or reflections.
Mykelle, there's nothing in the chat presently, but I'll keep monitoring it for you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the purpose of the present study was to expand our knowledge of Black girls' experiences and perspectives of school using a mixed methods approach to collect and analyze both numeric and narrative data to gather a more comprehensive outlook. To our understanding, the school experience encompasses several aspects and factors that can hinder or promote success in the learning environment. Results were consistent with the previous research on the impact of safety, interactions with the school community, and personal factors on school success. Even though order and discipline was not seen as negative, these outcomes foster discussion on how other aspects of the educational experience are of greater significance. However, a Black girl's perception of her school experience may be reduced if she perceives that the system, rather than her own efforts, is more in control of her academic performance. With regard to discipline-related issues, the respondents reflected on how many of the students get in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension and did not indicate any concern towards that. Instead, they reported that school disciplinary practices were not as effective when negative behavior still continued at school and that other punitive measures should be used. As a result, it's presumed that Black girls may not recognize different strategies that can be employed more positively as a result of their constant exposure to punishing methods and the perception of the school system having complete control over their environments. For example, when I discussed one of the interviewees described being handcuffed in the hallway, she did not see a problem with that because she said, that's how it is at school. This study contributes to the promotion of culturally relevant structure in school systems, as well as discovering Black girls' perceptions to inform school practices. These tactics may benefit the field by going beyond presenting the problem and instead providing solutions. Recommendations include improving connections, schools using more effective and positive approaches to make Black girls feel safe in every way, and cultural acceptance that celebrates and supports Black girls. These solutions can help Black girls achieve their goals and improve their overall well-being. A school is racially equitable when it examines existing representations, practices, and mechanisms of power, as well as developing a supportive environment for Black girls in schools. Adopting racially and culturally conscious practices and approaches involves addressing situational components and utilizing effective interventions. Research supports that positive behavioral interventions and supports, including the use of praise and positive enforcement in the classroom, have reduced discipline disparities for Black students. Intersectionality can be a useful tool for understanding experiences within our school community. Intersectionality can help school professionals, such as teachers, administrators, or school psychologists, to recognize both their own intersecting identities and the identities of the students they serve, but also how they create systems of privilege or oppression. Both policymakers and school administration should be aware of their role regarding the necessary systemic improvement and approaches to discipline, safety, and the biases towards Black girls. Based on the current state of our country, it's extremely important to reflect on the criminalization of Black girls by mitigating and preventing these experiences. This dialogue should include professional development and proper training opportunities in these areas. However, ongoing efforts are required to address these systemic challenges, as well as a periodic evaluation of those efforts. As an illustration, schools can organize one-on-one meetings with students to get their feedback, routinely conduct school climate surveys, and establish and maintain environments that support student autonomy. Creating spaces for community to have open discussion for Black girls can effectively create unity rather than make their experiences appear isolated. These support circles build communities and help Black girls process their lived experiences. Even though Black girls reported that they are resilient, there is still a challenge with being institutionally oppressed within their environments, and it must be addressed. Student-appointed school personnel should also facilitate these support circles. Throughout the journey, Black women continue to experience discrimination and oppression. Black women also experience a double minority status for being both Black and women in higher education and in the workplace. This recent study focused on understanding Black women's experiences in education and gathering their stories and their perceptions. There were 3 consistent themes that were generated: faculty negativity, peer mentorships and relationships, and work and personnel support structures. These results also align with treatment in the workplace as an educator. Black women reported facing multiple levels of oppression in the classroom from faculty members or from administration or leadership as an educator. There's also an absence of strong peer support and relying heavily on their external networks outside of these spaces because they desired a community that relates to them. Black women have also discussed challenges with connections, especially with how they look. For example, their hair. Black women may feel that their environment wants them to look in a certain way. People don't want to see an afro. They want to see a 24-inch weave, which means instead of being naturally me, I have to have straight hair to fit in. The following recommendations were offered when supporting Black women in education: increasing the number of Black women in these spaces. However, as these numbers increase, organizations and institutions must acknowledge the challenges that Black women face. They must address it effectively by focusing on improvement on the systems level as well. For example, the Crown Act is a law that was created in 2019. It prohibits discrimination based on Black hair texture and hairstyles. Other recommendations included creating spaces that foster community for Black women to relate to their peers, as well as amplifying voices and collaborating with current and alumna Black women to learn about their needs and experiences. As we look at these recommendations, you can see that they are very similar to those for Black girls. This demonstrates that support is still needed as Black girls progress through education, and their needs must be addressed. Your vulnerability is a gift. This was said to me by my fieldwork supervisor last year. She was one of the first supervisors who was open to talking to me about what it means to be a Black woman in these spaces. She shared with me that I get to choose who I want to be vulnerable with, and I must embrace it. As I have shared others' stories, I want to share mine as well. This picture was taken by my parents on my first day of school. Since I was a little girl growing up in West Haven, Connecticut, my parents and loved ones have always told me to live life to the fullest. I was eager to learn and have followed my parents' advice by having big dreams and goals for myself. However, throughout this educational journey, I have also experienced challenges that have impacted how I viewed myself and how others viewed me. As a Black girl, I've seen other students given opportunities that I have not, or being considered for specific awards or positions. As a Black woman, I have been in meetings where I have said something, then someone else would say the exact same thing and be celebrated. I have been in meetings where I was attacked for a very simple comment just to fuel conversation. I have tried to be careful not to show anger so that I am not being seen as the angry Black woman. These words have been said to me throughout my educational journey. These moments and comments have tried to define who I am because I am Black and I am a woman. However, those words do not define who I am. As discussed by many of the stories today, being able to have connections and relationships with others is the reason why I am here today. I am grateful for the women who have been there along the way to discuss the obstacles and celebrate achievements. I am thankful for my community, my family, my friends, my supervisors, my mentors, my cohort, my colleagues, my professor, and every person who has had a positive conversation with me, who has supported me, who has lended a hand, and who has also seen me for me. As a Black woman who stands before you today, I hope this research promotes positive change and fuels the conversation to influence the generations of powerful, resilient, and magical Black girls. I still continue to face these aspects as a Black woman, but I hope to plant seeds for future generations by continuing this research and focusing on other identities as well. We must continue to amplify voices while recognizing that relationships are key ingredients. Thank you to everyone here today, prior scholars in the field and Southern, for allowing me to speak today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Dr. Coleman, I thank you so much for sharing not only your research, but your personal story. And I'm sure that we are all leaving here, especially I got a little choked up on the end. I'm glad my camera was off.
Yeah.
Leaving here better for having been here and with much food for thought. I do want to read some of the comments that came in while you were speaking.
Yeah.
One says being underestimated is your superpower, which I love.
Love it. Thank you.
Another with a quotation, and I know this is unfortunately not an uncommon thing, but a quote, "You are so articulate." An angry
Yes.
thing, so I
Yes.
understand that. Of course, there were comments about the comments that were up there. One person asked the question, which was, what do you say to a Black girl who is often bullied by her peers and is called a white girl because of her high IQ and proper speech?
Yes. I feel like, for me, especially just even when I was talking to the Black girls, some even have similar experiences. And I think the main thing, that I noticed, or even when doing the interviews, is a lot of the Black girls never felt heard. Even doing my interviews, some did not want to log off because they were so excited that someone was there to listen to them, there to, talk about things, there to validate their feelings. So I think for me is when you're speaking to a Black girl, be there for her in that moment. Understand mind and listen and reflect and validate their experiences, because it is tough. And especially when hearing things like, oh, you're a white Black girl, or things like that. So for me, what I've learned especially is just being in that space and being there for them. And also making sure that you can see whatever in your power you can do to support them best is very helpful.
I think also serving as a role model, showing them, right? So they look at you and see themselves, and the potential in each of us is seen within one another, right? So there's a question in here that says, thanks for sharing. Did your data include Black girls with disabilities?
Yes. So I also collected, so for my study, I focused a lot, on, gender and race, as I discussed before. However, through the survey, I collected data based on, if they had an educational classification. So I was able to do that. However, there were only 13 girls in the survey that provided that, and some were also not the interviewees. However, for my research, as I said before, I want to continue focusing on the identity. So including, disability, or including, being a special education student, and your encounters with that is something that I hope to focus on in the future.
Excellent. There were a lot of comments in here about what a wonderful presentation it was, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for being vulnerable and such powerful work. And another comment that I think is really important for all of us to hear is representation really matters. So I will say thank you on behalf of all of us, and especially
Yes.
thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having
me. It's my pleasure. I will ask, I want to first of all thank everyone, or second of all, I guess, because I've thanked you. So secondly, thank you everyone for attending tonight, and for sharing this in this event. I want to kind of maybe leave all of us with the questions of what will we do tomorrow? How will, as teachers and learners, which I argue we are all teachers and all learners in different settings and contexts, how will we take what we have heard from Dr. Coleman tonight, digest it, and take action to do our part in making positive change for all of us? So thank you everyone for being here tonight. Please join us for our next colloquium, which will happen in mid-November, when Dr. Lowell Davis, who is the Vice President for Student Affairs at the University of Texas, Arlington, will join us. Please watch out for additional details with regard to that. And with that, I will say thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.